I am Kate Volman, and I am so excited to be joined by Michael Stelzner. He is the founder and CEO of Social Media Examiner. He is also runs the podcast the Social Media Marketing Podcast. He is the author of a book called Launch. He is just an awesome guy, and I've been following him online for quite a number of years, and I'm really excited to have that you took the time to sit down with me. So thank you, Michael.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, Kate.
So I want to kind of dive right in because you have a really cool story about the way that you built Social Media Examiner. So share a little bit about the inspiration behind why you started it and what it is.
Social Media Examiner is an online magazine that helps marketers figure out how to navigate the social media jungle. And we've been around for just over 6 years. And you know, when I started it, there was a lot of people writing about social media, a lot of bloggers, and I even wondered way back then whether there was even room for another blog, you know. And now looking back, obviously it seems crazy because we have, you know, millions of people that read our blog, and gosh, 425,000 people that get our email in their inbox every day, and we've gone on to do all these crazy things. But you know, while I'm telling you the story, I think I've lost track of the original question. Was it how did we start it?
What inspired you to start it?
So I, in a previous life, was doing something that in the beginning I loved, and then I eventually got sick and bored of it, even though I was making great money. And I said to myself, I wonder if I can pivot. I wonder if I can try something totally different. I wonder if I can take the knowledge that I earned over here in this writing industry, in the world of white papers, and I wonder if I can apply that to an industry I know nothing about. And I wonder if I can become what was known as the king of white papers, and maybe I can become the court jester of social media. So I just decided to start leveraging some of the relationships that I had, and I began leveraging the platform that I already had in the white paper space, and I began interviewing people and understanding how they were using social media way back in 2008 and how they might use that in my industry. So I began bridging these two industries together. And I began noticing that every time I ever wrote or spoke about anything related to social media, that it all of a sudden went crazy. Mm-hmm. Everybody was talking about it. Everybody was sharing it. So I got this crazy idea to go ahead and start an online event called Social Media Success Summit. And the idea was to bring together these people that were various thought leaders in the world of social media and present them to my white paper audience. Well, sure enough, it was the most successful thing I'd ever done. I think we sold like 600 tickets to it, and it was crazy. So I said, wow, maybe I'm onto something here. Maybe I should actually take some of this writing knowledge and maybe work with some of these writers that I developed great relationships with and start something brand new. So I went out and I Googled some phrases for some domains that I thought would be interesting. And by the way, I used GoDaddy, and I found socialmediaexaminer.com was available, to my shock. First thing I thought is I was going to get a cease and desist letter for the San Francisco Examiner, you know, newspaper. So after, you know, a little while and I didn't get that, I kind of calmed down a little bit. I eventually did trademark with the U.S. Trademark Office that particular name, so I really had protection. But in the very beginning, it was just a big experiment. All I wanted to do was to see whether or not if I could provide really deep, rich how-to content, not opinion pieces. Not everybody. Back in the olden days, everybody was saying, "Oh, I hate this about Facebook," or "I hate this about LinkedIn." What if we actually showed people how to do it? And sure enough, it exploded.
That's so cool. And you have such a huge audience, and the content you share really is amazing and I love it's for the marketer and the small business owner. And there's so much, there's every day you're talking about YouTube one day and LinkedIn another day. So you deal with a lot of small business owners and marketers. What do you think their biggest, there's a lot of challenges. What are some of the ones that you talk to a lot of business owners about, like their biggest challenges when it comes to social media and kind of navigating the world?
Well, I think the biggest challenge that marketers and business owners face today is standing out, mm-hmm. right? Because it used to be that we could have a business in our own little niche or in a regionalized geographical marketplace and be fine. But now we're competing against the entire world, right? So you could be a graphics designer and be competing with someone in another country, like a third world country, that's better than you and half your price. So the challenge that we face today is, how do we stand out in a global marketplace? How can we get our crafts, products, services noticed? The good news is it's not as hard as it used to be. In the olden days, I could never have started something like Social Media Examiner, which I call an online magazine, because I would have had to do it over print, and I would have had to do I would have had to figure out very costly ways of acquiring customers. But now online, this can be done for next to nothing. The bad news is anybody can do it for next to nothing. So the challenge that we face as marketers is figuring out how to create something that will naturally and organically draw people to us. So this is the challenge that everybody faces, is how do I stand out? And the way that you stand out is you create something so valuable, like a post or an ebook, that people love it and they share it. And the social sharing component is the key differentiator that allows any business now to compete against the big boys. Because when someone clicks that retweet button or shares it on Facebook or any other social network, it's the equivalent to an endorsement. And these people are like walking billboards for you and for your content. And when you can get to the point where you have tens or hundreds or thousands or millions, in my case, of people that are sharing and recommending you, well, then the world is your oyster and you can do whatever you want. That's the key, is to create something of value for free. And that's what so many businesses misunderstand, because in the olden days, we created products and services, and then we paid someone else to advertise those products and services. Those someone else's were people that already had an audience. Today, we become the media. We disintermediate those middle people, and we now become the media by producing a podcast, by producing a live video show, for example, what we do on Blab, or by producing blog content or any other kind of content, or even a YouTube channel. And the idea is you now draw people to you, feed them every day or every week with regular content. And then once you do that, they become subscribers, they become lovers of you, and some of them become customers of you. And that's the way you stand out.
And you, after hearing your story, when I read more about you and how you really got started with Social Media Examiner, one of the things that I found really interesting is that when you started, you had kind of an idea in mind of wanting to reach X amount of subscribers before you even thought to monetize it. I think a lot of business owners, they think, look, I have the internet, I have all this, like all these people, but and they're just thinking dollar signs. They're not thinking connecting and really building relationships. And you've done that so beautifully. So I guess talk through that strategy if someone's looking to build an audience. Like, what should they expect?
The formula is really simple. I call it the elevation principle. It's great content, which we've talked about, plus other people, minus marketing messages. The other people is that, those people that share your content, for example, because they love it. The minus marketing messages is the part that everybody messes up on. We don't like it when we go to a website and we read an article about how to do Facebook ads, and then we see advertisements all around it that says, hire me to do your Facebook ads, right? Because then we just look at it and we say, oh, well, this is obviously something designed to draw me in and bait and switch me, right? Instead, if we come to a site and we don't see any obvious commercials or advertising, then we might say, wow, this is just super valuable content. I'm going to do something. I'm going to either sign up to get more of their content, which is what you want, or I'm going to share it, which is also what you want, to draw my friends to that content as well. So at Social Media Examiner, we knew that we needed a certain size of an audience in order to kind of break through and have momentum. So we spent about 3 months developing content with no commercial aspect at all. And our goal is to get to, maybe it was 4 months, to get to 10,000 email subscribers. Those are 10,000 people that were waiting every couple days for some great content from us. And we were able to achieve that very rapidly. We knew that if we could grow that fast and get to that number, then when we actually did interject some marketing messages, like our next summit, we knew some people would unsubscribe, but we knew that we would have enough of a mass and momentum on our side that it wouldn't hurt our growth. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
And, today we now add, surprisingly, more than 10,000 email subscribers every month. As a matter of fact, we add 17 to 20,000 email subscribers every single month. So that's what we're dealing with. But when you email people every day, we also lose people too, Right. But that's we are living proof that this works. You
That's
can
so
have a massive
awesome.
audience, and you can do a lot once you have an audience.
And when you say we, how many people are on your team?
There's 43 people at Social Media Examiner total. 6 full-time employees. All the rest are contractors of various stripes and skills and shapes, like attorneys and graphics designers and controllers and all that kind of stuff. But the core team is really just 6 full-time employees.
Wow, that's so it's like so massive, all the stuff that you guys do and the content.
We have a
you put
huge
out.
audience, but we also have this massive fan base that kind of just does stuff,
Yeah.
And as long as we keep giving them what they want, we just keep growing and growing and growing.
So when business owners ask you, do I need to, or should I be on every social media platform? Like a small business owner, maybe it's just themselves or themselves and one other person. It's a lot to manage, but they feel like they have to be on everything. Do you recommend just get on everything or just pick one platform? What do you recommend?
Well, first and foremost, if you already have a business, ask your customers, where do they hang out? And the one that kind of rises to the top is where you ought to start. Mm-hmm. If you don't, then take a look at all the competitors in your industry and ask yourself, where do they seem to be most active? Start with one thing. In our case, in the beginning, was Twitter. And then we added Facebook. And eventually, as we began to master those platforms, meaning we began to see benefit, right? We were driving significant traffic to our website. We were getting lots of engagement. It was ultimately contributing to sales. Then we would expand and expand and expand. But, in the beginning, there's only so much time. And we do this annual industry report where we survey thousands of marketers. And it takes a lot of time. Most marketers are spending at least 20 hours a week, at least the ones that we surveyed, actively participating in social. And if you're a business owner, you don't have that kind of time. So what you might want to consider doing is hiring somebody who does. And there's an entire industry now of marketers, community managers, if you will, and their job is to basically engage, interact, cultivate, and grow communities online. But start somewhere. For most businesses, that's going to be Facebook. As a matter of fact, I'd say 95% of all businesses, you're going to start with Facebook. Why? Because that's where the entire world hangs out. That's your main street. But you need to figure it out. Maybe in your case, it's LinkedIn. Maybe it's Snapchat, depending on the audience you're going after. But start it, understand the culture, begin to experiment with it, begin to network, and begin to build relationships with those people that have influence over, to the people that you're trying to reach. And slowly but surely, you will find success. And then repeat, expand, repeat, expand.
Awesome. And you, like I said, I'm a reader of your blog. I listen to your podcast. I love that most of your podcasts start with, "Hey, we found this really cool app," or some kind of a tool.
Right.
So, what are some of your favorites that you love to share? Because
I got 3. First of all is Blab. Blab is an app, and Blab is also a website, blab.im. It's a live video streaming service or platform where you can do your own shows or you can consume other people's shows. And we do a weekly show on there where we cover all the news and social media. We love it. We get a chance to actually talk face-to-face live over video. Check it out. It's awesome. It's relatively new. Scannable is another app that I strongly recommend, which is an app from Evernote, the folks at Evernote. And you just basically turn it on and it looks like a camera, but if it sees something like rectangular or square, no matter what angle you're at, it'll automatically snap a picture of it and crop it and then square eyes it. So like if you have a piece of paper on your desk and it's at an angle, it'll just scan it and it will crop everything else but the paper, and then it will make it perfectly square, and then boom, it's as if you had a scanner. And for business cards, it'll not just do that, but it will also link to LinkedIn, and it will pull in their personal profile so you can connect with them on LinkedIn. That's really cool. The last one I recommend is called Speed Test. Speedtest.net is a website, but it's also an app that you can get on your smartphone. And it allows you to, with the push of a button, to run a speed test to see how fast your internet connection is wherever you happen to be. That's really helpful if you're trying to pull up your website and it's not working right, and you're wondering whether it's you or whether it's your site or whether it's your connection. It'll just give you a quick feeling of how fast your internet connection is.
Cool. I love those. And one more question, because I actually had the opportunity to meet you in person at Inbound, that conference, HubSpot's conference. And with Blab, I know that you're friends with Joel, who did a little session on Blab.
Yes.
And I'm curious because then I know that you became a fan of it and now you're starting to do your own blabs. So for business owners that they're following you, they hear all the great stuff that you share. There's Periscope and Blab and all these new things that are coming out, and they might not have time to try everything, but they want to. Like, do you give any advice to people who, again, you're sharing all this great stuff? What do they try versus what do they not?
Well, a couple things. First of all, go check out whatever it is, maybe blab.im, and be a consumer of it and just see whether it appeals to you as a consumer. And if you enjoy it and you find personal joy in it, then maybe you ought to try it. The other thing you could do, like you mentioned, we met at HubSpot's Inbound conference. You can go to a conference like Social Media Marketing World, which is our conference, and you can come and you can sit in sessions on all these different platforms and hear from the experts and even go up to them afterwards and ask your questions. I think people often underestimate many of us are explorers and we want to dig in and get our hands dirty, but we don't have time to explore. So looking to thought leaders and seeing what they're doing is actually a shortcut. And going to hear them at a conference like Inbound or Social Media Marketing World, and oftentimes they're showing you how other businesses are doing it. Sometimes we just need a really good idea to spur us and to say, oh my gosh, wow, I'm going to try this because I like this, or I'm going to try something totally different. And that only happens when you get a chance to actually be in the presence of some of these people and even talk to these people. So I don't know. That's a roundabout answer to your question, hopefully.
No, I like it. I like it. Thank you so much. And Michael, thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it. You are awesome. Keep doing what you're doing. I love your podcast. For those people who don't yet follow you, where can people find you?
The podcast, if you listen to podcasts, it's called Social Media Marketing. Just search for that. Social Media Examiner is where you can find me, our conference. And if you want to reach out to me on Twitter, it's just Mike_Stelzner, Stelzner.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Mike. It was so great chatting with you.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me.